Good evening, folks. Triple Crown here, coming to you from Vancouver, British Columbia. This is a round 6 Operation Cool Summer summary, and it was a long round with a few big battles, some dice to roll out, and the Japanese took Ceylon, the island of Ceylon. Why? Well, that's at a naval base, and from the naval base, they can go down 3 spaces to South Africa. They can go to Cairo, to Transjordan. They can go to the Middle East, or, they can hit. So lots of options. Very central point. The Japanese came into Burma with over 20 units remaining. So they are pressing towards Calcutta. What are the FEC going to do? They currently have over 20 units there themselves, and they are kind of spread out. But when they start losing their military bases, which they have here at Bangladesh, Madras, and I think it's East Bengal, they can only build 3 units per turn at the minor IC. So they're also being convoyed here at the C zone. They did decide to go and reinforce the KNT up here in Sinkai, or Siking. And the Russians, they're standing pat. The Japanese did reinforce with the Air Force and an air transport. They brought an extra unit in, and their fast movers are driving across Asia. As you can see, they've got an artillery being pulled by a mech and a self-propelled artillery that's driving across, and over here as well. The Japanese Navy is a little bit out of position. They control all the Money Islands now, all of Dutch New Guinea and New Guinea. The last Money Island they gobbled up here, which is surrounded by their consolidated Navy, and they thought they were being very intelligent until they realized they are 3 sea zones away from the Philippines, which was liberated by the Americans. So the Americans came in and liberated the Philippines from the Japanese, who took all of their ground forces and went elsewhere. They dropped them off in Burma. So they're going to have to retake the Philippines next turn, but they're going to have to do it carefully because, the American Navy is bigger than the Japanese Navy up here off the coast of Tokyo, but it's currently not sitting at a naval base either. So do the Japanese, try and do some sort of pincer and take them out? We'll see, but the Anzac Navy and the combined British Navy is also here, and that is growing. They're just building Navy every turn. So the Tide, I'm not the greatest Japanese player, I confess. So the Japanese are making over $90 a turn. Did they spend all their resources here and go take Calcutta, which is worth 1 victory point? Or do they just, double down now and just build a massive navy and force America to build navy? And so they can have, basically a show of superiority over here in the South Pacific, and also a show of superiority in regards to naval units over here against the Americans. So we'll see what happens. Back home, America built a carrier, 2 destroyers, 3 naval transports, and the other big, I guess we haven't talked about the big dice battles, but the battle for Oral Kursk. So the Russians took it back from the Germans, and they thought they were smart in doing so. And this is why you calculate the units before you send everything in. I did not do that. I just looked at the stack of Russian units, and I thought, that's going to be good enough to defend. No one's going to want to attack anybody. And when I ran the calcs, as Cyberblood likes to say, after the round, I realized the Germans, if they sent their Air Force in, they had a significant advantage. So they survived with all of their armored units. So do they take a swing at Moscow next turn? Currently in Moscow is about 25 units, and the Germans can probably hit them with about the same. Moscow is defended by a fortification, so that's going to be interesting what happens next turn. The Italians took eastern Ukraine, so that was a big dice battle there, and the dice were probably a little bit on the German side. I'm going to pan over here. You can kind of see there's 3 artillery, a mech, 6 Panzer Grenadiers, and a bunch of tanks left, and a bunch of tanks in the other territories as the Germans start to surround Moscow. The Russians are in trouble, and perhaps if Moscow does fall, that might tilt the game in the Axis favor. We'll see. The other big battles here were the battle for Tobruk. So the British captured Tobruk last turn. They survived with about 7 or 8 units, which is not a surprise. And the Italians took their best swing, and they actually had pretty good dice. And they took out the bulk of the British Navy. What's surviving is 5 naval transports, 4 aircraft, and 2 damaged battleships. Now, currently, the Germans could come in next turn and attack it with 2 medium bombers, a fighter, and a tactical. So I'm not sure if that's going to be smart, because that could mean that could be the forces the Germans need to capture Moscow. So do they do a play here and wipe out these 5 surviving transports, which are going to start bridging across to Greece and make the Italians poor? The Italians are currently making about 25 IPP. And over here, the Americans recaptured from the Italians Rio de Oro. The Italians are almost kicked out of Africa here. They've got 2 units remaining and a couple territories here. The Americans over here in the North Atlantic built 4 naval transports, a torpedo boat, a sub chaser, a destroyer, a battleship, and a carrier. So America starting to build a navy. The Canadians also built a little bit more of a navy. The Germans have 3 submarines in the water and 4 aircraft staying in Western Germany. The Germans are bulking up the West Coast. They built 3 infantry in Paris and another 7 infantry back in Western Germany. So we'll see where the Germans start to spend their money. Do they focus more on Russia, or do they realize they probably need to start reinforcing to save Paris? So we'll see what happens going into round 7. And thanks for watching, folks.